Welcome back to Change Ed.
Change it.
The #1 rated, not contested educational podcast in all of Pennsylvania, especially in the Chambersburg area, if I'm not mistaken.
After today.
My name is Andrew Kuhn. I am your favorite host. I'm also an education consultant with Montgomery County Intermediate Unit. And here with me is
Patrice Semichek, also out of the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit. I don't think I say "pa" every time.
I think I do a great job.
They've been giving me a hard time about how I say my name. It's my name.
Say it one more time.
Patrice.
There's nothing wrong with that. Patrice Bergeron, same idea.
Thank you.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Thank you.
And Tony Marabito from Carbon Lehigh Intermediate Unit, Staff Development Facilitator. The main reason we're here today, if you don't mind, I'll do the intro because it's my guy.
Tony's
I met
always
this
got a
gentleman.
guy.
I met this gentleman a few years ago. To say he's inspiring would be an undersell. I want to introduce Josh Bound out of Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. And Josh, you can introduce yourself because you kill it.
I will. How much time do I have is the real question.
You can take the whole time to talk about your greatness.
You have no idea what you're uncorking right now. All right. Okay. So my name is Josh Bound. I have been in public education my entire career. I started in the Maryland school systems as a special education teacher just to break into the Howard County Public Schools. And then I transitioned to social studies. I'm a social studies teacher, moved up to Pennsylvania 20 years ago, housing market, things that people can relate to, and founded a future in Chambersburg. And so I've been working in the Chambersburg Area School District forever. When that occurred, I moved up here with a 1-year-old son. He's key to this story because he found his way into an autism label via the system. I mean, honestly, that was the moment that kind of put me on a new path because before that label, I had dreams of living through my kid playing sports and all these things. And it turns out that my son doesn't like getting touched because he's really a sensory processing disorder kid is what he is. 20 years, the autism spectrum disorder, that whole thing. People names change and labels are changing actively right now. And so I always said he was a sensory processing disorder. So he just had these little quirks about him. So I was in pure denial because I'm a jock dad. And one day I just broke. And if you watch a TED Talk on this, I tell a story about being underneath this Volkswagen Beetle that I had restored for my mom with my brother. And I was changing the oil, and old school 1968 convertible. I'm underneath there and I was asking for, I think it was a wrench or a screwdriver. And I said, hey, can you hand me that? He stood in the garage because he was outside playing and he came in and he was going to just literally just hand me the thing. And he was like, no, my hands will get dirty. And he wiped his hands on his chest like he'd actually touched something and walked away. And that was when I broke and I just laid under the car crying because I was like, dude, there's no way everything I want my kid to be X, Y, and Z. But then my upbringing kicked in and I was like, just because he's him and I'm me does not mean we can't coexist. And I need to meet him where he is doing the dad thing because I grew up without a dad. So I'm super committed to being a dad. It was like the beginning of a journey because the moment that thing happened, I started looking for answers. Like, okay, how do I relate to my kid? Because I couldn't relate to him. He doesn't work at cars. He doesn't play sports. Like 90% of my game is gone and I'm in denial, Shout out to Becky Buhner. I don't know where Becky Buhner is, kindergarten teacher. She was the first one to point things out. I say her name a lot because I'm tearing up talking about it. Like now she opened a can that I didn't want to open.
Yeah.
Here, man, you got me tearing up, Tony. I haven't talked about this in forever. But
Becky Buhner
Becky Buhner did her thing as a teacher. And it put me on a path to meet my kid where he was. And so where I met him, believe it or not, was at Mario Kart, a legit Mario Kart. We were in Walmart and he picked up a controller in the back. They had the TV with the thing playing. You saw a Wii's. And another kid came up to him that he didn't know, and they just started talking about Mario Kart. And I was like, what is going on? Because he doesn't talk to me like, what is this about? Because I want that relationship. I want that. I was like, it's the game. It's the neutral thing. So I came home and I talked to my wife and she was like, no, please don't buy one until 6th grade because she's from Midwest values. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm not waiting until 6th grade. I grew up poor and I grew up with sports and I grew up with how to make friends and I know what I got to do.
Yeah.
So I sabotaged my wife and bought the Wii against her will. And we had a real argument, but he started learning how to win and lose and how to take turns and how to voice his opinion about a thing from games. Mm. It wasn't competitive. It was just games are naturally competitive, but it was just games. And then next thing you know, he went to school and he's wearing Mario Kart and Pokemon and Minecraft gear. So now he's fitting in with kids because he has something common to talk about. Yeah. So that autism label isn't so harsh because kids could read his shirt and go, oh, you play Minecraft? And now autism isn't matter because he can start, he's into it. There's your opening, your anticipatory set for the education people, right? Like that warm up, you know? And so it broke down a bunch of walls. Interestingly enough, while I'm going through this, I started a gaming club at my school because kids, they just were like, can we just have a gaming club? It'd be cool to meet people. And that's what they, like, that's how it started. 3 dudes, Zion, Sarav, and Aiden. Shout out to those 3. Then I went to a principal and I was just happened to be in the right spot because my principal was progressive in his thought process. I said, can you give me money so I can buy a PlayStation 4? And he was like, why? And I said, because I think I can help a lot of kids and get some kids gaming. And I got this crazy idea I saw with my son, Bobby. He goes, is it good for kids? I said, yes. He said, I trust you. Get $400 from student government. And that's that. So he bought me a PlayStation 4. We had 2 controllers and no games, but we had a PlayStation 4. And by the end of that week, we had 120 kids in the gaming club.
Wow.
And they were bringing their things. And I had 2 advisors. We had an iTunes U. This is how old we are. iTunes U.
Long time ago.
Yeah. RIP iTunes U. That's where we set up our shop and we had all our meetings and like, here's the notes. It's like Schoology before Schoology.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. And then what happened was the next part was how do we keep this thing going? Because when my kid gets here, I want him to have this safe space of these gamers. And next thing you know, we're like, we just have to kind of justify ourselves. So it became social emotional learning. I didn't dive into it for that from the start. That was the default benefit, the gaming. And like, I wasn't like, oh, we're going to teach Castle standards and align curriculums. That was never the goal. The goal was just to connect kids just so they won't eat lunch alone. That's as simple as it gets. I don't want kids eating lunch alone. Done.
I mean, it's not super simple. Let's be very real about like, yes, it's a simple concept, but that's not simple to actually accomplish.
It's not, to make it happen is actually super complex. But when we started playing games, next thing you know, I just put one rule in. You have to introduce yourself to the kid you're playing with. That's all I said. Like, do you know the kid's name you're playing with? And they went, GG's, and they pounded fist, and then they started to shake. Then I was like, oh, let's shake some hands. This is how we shake hands, boys and girls. And
eye contact, everything.
Eye contact. More than 3 is weird. Don't do that. Like, you know. And
social skills, yeah. That's where it all started. Like, then it became, I was involved in scouting and with my son for socialization, scouting, and they're big on like social philanthropy, the idea of giving back to your community. So I was like, let me take all these kids now who have been basically leaderless because they're independently by themselves a lot, this 120 kids. And then we started raising money for charity. And once you start raising money for charity and the kids are leading the actual event, like, oh, we're doing a car wash. Cool. You, Aiden, call AutoZone and set it up. All right. Now I'm talking leadership skills. So now we're talking things that people can't argue that. So, okay. And then we raised $1,500 for X, Y, and Z. And you're like, you made how much money doing car washes for... Yeah, there was a car wash, like the 4th or 5th charitable event we had run. We raised $2,400 for a kid that had leukemia in our building. Wow.
And the idea was he was at Hershey all by himself. And the kids in our building, like, we can't connect him. Like, we know him. His name's Noah. And he's at Johns Hopkins on a full ride now to college at Johns Hopkins. And we bought him a gaming laptop. With the money. I gave the money. Literally, there's a picture on the website, like, here's a stack of dollar bills we just collected. Here you go, Mom. Go buy the web.
That's awesome.
And next thing you know, he's live playing with his kids from his hospital bed, which is, you know, that's not even the saddest one. The saddest one was the very first one we did was we raised $1,500 and they didn't know what to do with it. We were going to donate it to Hershey Medical Center just because that's what we thought we should do.
Yeah.
And then we had a student who died who actually passed. His name Chris Sellers. He passed away. He came here week 1 of school. Week 2, he's up at Hershey, tubes, cancer, everything. And he passed away just as awful as you can imagine. And our kids said, they literally voted, just give the parents the money. So Mom showed up. I said, here, we cannot help you, but here is $1,500 to help pay for, I mean, who plans a funeral, right? Like,
especially for a young person.
So that's where it started. But the best part of this story is that when we raised the money for Noah at that car wash, Chris Sellers' dad came by and donated $100. And I was like, hey, let me tell you, I didn't know the guy. Didn't have any recollection of it. He came up. He said, hey, yeah, you guys, I know what you're about. I said, yes. He said, I saw you on Facebook. We post. I came by to get my car washed. All right, cool. Here's $100. I was like, $100? Like, what's up? He goes, let me tell you about what we're doing. He goes, oh, I know all about it because you helped me once. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I mean,
That just gave me goosebumps.
Yep.
yeah, like I tear up because I'm an emotional wreck when it comes to this stuff. But like he literally was like, dude, you have no idea what you did for us
Yeah.
back then. And I'm just paying it forward.
Yeah.
And I was like, if that's the grand takeaway, he said, you helped me once, and I'm just trying to help this kid now. He can do
But the skills
You know-
you're teaching the young people, all because of an impact that your son had on you.
yes.
Like it all comes back to that. I need you to
Legit
send
comes
us your
back to
TED
that.
Talk because I feel like I'm going to be a blubbering baby in your
it's
TED
18
Talk.
minutes. Yeah, it's 18 minutes. I'm proud to say I think I'm over 10,000 or I'm around 10,000 views.
That's awesome.
I check in for an ego check because I'm a sports guy. I do like to see what commercial comes on.
Yeah.
So that's how I gauge how well I'm doing. Like, oh, they're showing movies in front of my TED, the TED, it's called Making the Socially Awkward Socially Active. That's what it's called. And it was a TEDx talk in Lancaster. Yeah, that's where it started. And then here's the fun part. You're going to love this. Then I'm doing a thing at Pedency, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I get fanboyed by a guy named Tony.
Oh.
And so this guy,
Game over.
Yeah.
this guy Steve Isaacs,
Yep.
this guy Steve Isaacs, who's Mr. New Jersey Epic Games, Fortnite Creative, X, Y, and Z, is like, yeah, I'm taking everybody out for dinner. And I happen to be at the dinner because I knew the same people and whatever, and I'm just there. And I look across at Tony, and I forget the guy you were with. I forget his name, but he was there. You were literally directly across.
Yeah.
Tony's like, dude, you're the guy. I'll never forget. He goes, dude, you're the guy. And I'm like, what did I do? I have no. He's like, we stole all of your stuff.
Yeah. Me and
I was
Mike,
like, good,
Mike Heater.
because it's open source.
We
Like the
stole
whole thing
all
is
your
open source. Like you should do this as a teacher. Like I'm not making any money out of this. Like go help kids. Why are you a teacher? Go help kids. The quiet kid in the corner will thank you. Trust me on that.
Mm-hmm.
And like, so I become this champion of socially awkward kids because of my son, because I didn't have a dad, because I refused to quit and my personality is of a certain nature. And I had a leader that trusted me,
Yeah.
which is hard to say in today's world.
Yeah.
It really is hard to say, yeah, my principals have my back sometimes. And it is what it is. But Dr. Mark Long deserves all the praise in the storyline here. And that's where it started. That's the origin.
Now you see why I wanted him on the podcast,
Yeah.
because even
Bro,
if
I'm crying.
because he's the
I'll
most
be crying.
passionate guy in the world. Like,
Have you ever read the poem Welcome to Holland?
No, I'm writing it down.
Because I love it so much. So when I first started working with students with autism, it was one of those ones because I didn't have kids yet. And it was one of the most impactful poems that I've read. It's by Emily Pearl Kingsley.
Okay.
And it's relatively old. It was written in 1987. But what it does is it talks about how, as a parent, you're planning on going to see Italy. Right?
Okay.
The whole time you're pregnant, like you're planning this whole trip to go see Italy, and then you get off the plane and you end up in Holland. And it's not a bad place to be. It's a
Not what you
beautiful
expected.
place to be, but it's not
Yeah.
what you expected. And so it walks you through as a parent, like on the outside, like how she navigated showing up in Holland with her child.
That makes total sense.
Yeah,
because,
it's a beautiful poem.
Yeah, it makes total sense because, like, as you know, the older I get, the more I think, like, what's my kid gonna do? What's Cad gonna do? Cadman's his name, Cad. What's Cad gonna do? And he's finding his way, and he's grinding, and he's an Eagle Scout, and he's a National Honor Society. He's doing all these things to do. And he's stepping up his game and he's doing his best. And he's like, I want to create. I want to do this. So he's got his associate's degree from HAC right now. He's finishing his associate's degree in graphic design because he wants to create stories and whatnot. And I was like, that's great, but you got to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And, we have these real life conversations. But when he first got his autism label, and this goes back to that story, I was told by people straight up and down, don't expect much. Like, that's it. Straight up and down, don't expect much. And I was like, do you know who I am? That was my response. And they're like, I'm just saying from my experiences, don't expect much. And I was like, I understand where you're coming from, but my situation is different than yours. And as I get older, I look back on what I changed things. I don't think I would change it. My son is legitimately the nicest human being I have ever met in my life. He is a registered Green Party member, if that tells you anything. He's amazing. And then I have my daughter who's also amazing, but for different reasons. They're yin and yang. The best thing I think I ever did for my son was having my daughter, because like you're talking about best friends and family and understanding care and camaraderie. The two of them together are like, dude, they're peas. They are meant to be together. So like there's a lot of it like that, but I don't
I have a small suspicion that your parenting might have something to do with that.
No, and that's the other part here is I don't take compliments well. And
obviously,
I do not. I will never give myself credit, even though I know what I'm doing is amazing. It could always be better, and that's the sports coaching in me from coaches like, yeah, you're team captain, but you're not the captain. What are you going to do today? So like today is right now is the most important thing in my life at all times, like right now, which is a problem I have because getting this next thing off the ground, I have to like wait, and I don't like waiting.
Well, it's not necessarily a problem. I think it's all in how you look at it. It's not a problem that you're always trying to improve yourself. I think it's a good thing. It's exhausting, but I don't think it's a problem.
Do a lot of late night. Yeah. Do you do late nights too?
I do late nights and early mornings and a whole lot of overthinking, but I am definitely not doing as amazing things as you are. So.
Oh, stop it. You're the number one podcast in Pennsylvania, I heard.
Yeah.
I heard that. I did a deep dive on you guys. Right. And you're number one of like 687.
Look at that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Josh, which one is your favorite episode?
What a hype, man.
Listen, I can sell anybody anything. Just but I don't know. What I'm doing right now doesn't need to be sold. COVID, this next part of this, why I'm talking to you, COVID is really what drives this next part. So the next part.
Well, let me introduce this next part because I run into Josh this year and he doesn't have his VGA USA sign up, and I'm like, what in the world did this guy start now? And so as if helping all these kids through video games wasn't enough, he's like, no, I'm going to go a different route completely, and I'm going to change this into games, and I'm going to make a whole SEL curriculum, and I'm selling it short again because of everything Josh does.
Wait a minute. Okay, I have heard about this idea, and I don't even think it was from Tony. I think you're like being talked about from other places, sir.
Let's go.
None of it.
All right.
None of it's good, Josh. None of it's
No,
good.
it's all good. Don't listen to Andrew.
All good. Nobody's talking about you.
Okay,
That's
go
right.
on. Sorry, Tony.
No.
This is so exciting and so fun.
So the first thing I do is Josh's like, I need to talk to you at some point today. So I get over to him eventually after we're done with the esports day and we're done with the podcasting, and he just gives me this Vikings board game. And I'm like, what in the world are you doing now? So go ahead.
Okay. So in the past number of years as Video Game Clubs of America, I've been going, the nonprofit was formed. So I started going to a bunch of gaming conventions, and I built up all these friends in the gaming world. But my world is not gaming. My world is really education. So last year at PNC, we launched, hey, we've got this kind of curriculum. We're trying this thing. All right, great, cool. It was
So
okay.
many people were talking about it.
Well, that was last year. And then this year, what happened was I had added key people, Becca Castellosi, Max Jamel. I had added some people to my group, and we started solving problems. So I was doing this thing where we launched a curriculum, and I really thought about, I'm in a doctorate program right now for this at Point Park University. My dissertation is going to be this. I'm gonna prove that this works. And with beyond a shadow of a doubt, this is where it needs to be. And the whole country needs to be doing it because we have problems that we need to solve. And so like, that's where I want to go. So I'm in this thing and I'm like, you know what's missing? I'm missing, like, it all comes down to time, like teaching. Everything's about time. How much time do you have? I don't have time to do this. I don't have time to read that email. I don't have time. Always time. So I say, cool, let's make a curriculum that is so simple that nobody can say no to it. That was the goal. So in 2 weeks, the team, we kicked out what becomes the one-day social emotional learning lesson plans. And it is a curriculum that is literally like, oh, we're using Uno? Cool. Here's a one-page front and back lesson plan that any substitute teacher could use Uno to teach kids social skills. Listen to these games. Uno, Handyland, War. Like, if you can't play one of those three games, right? Gin Rummy. Like, do you know how to play Rummy? Like, Grandma taught me how to play Rummy. Like, we modify these games, and it's a list of lessons. So we come up with a program called One Up EDU, which is owned by the nonprofit Video Game Clubs of America. It's called One Up EDU. And the idea is use games to teach social skills because kids like games. They don't want to read about a rabbit who has emotional
That's
trauma.
Practical application. I struggled so much with my social emotional curriculum when I was an autistic support teacher. So this means nothing to any of them. You've got to put it into practice. Yes.
Yes. And that's where it comes from, is like real world. See, what you do is you throw the games out in front of them. You say, okay, cool, let's play. And you as the teacher, you just watch the room. Because I don't know how to play the game, but I know the kids, and I know when Johnny's getting upset, and I know when Tony's getting upset, and I know when Patrice gets upset. And like, let me jump in there and say, okay, well, let's talk social right now because you're angry, like because you're upset because someone just rolled a 6 and you can't roll a 6. Let's actually work through this thing. What are some things you can do to break it? How about breathing? How about the hack? How do we get to know each other? So like the example I use is in Uno. When you're playing Uno,
There are triggers and actions. When a trigger occurs in a game, you don't change the game. Uno's still Uno. You just add an action assigned to a trigger. So when someone plays a +2, right? +2 gets played. That person has to share something favorite with the group. So now I'm getting to know I'm social awareness. I love my favorite dog is a pit bull because I own a pit bull. And if you own a pit bull, you're going to be talking to me about your pit bull. And guess what's going to happen at lunch? I might actually sit with you because I know one small thing about you. All of a sudden stereotypes are out the window because I know you and I know something about you. Just a little nugget. Imagine if you're at Walmart and you got the homeless guy in the middle asking for money and you're at the light. Everybody can understand this. You're at the light, turn to the left, and the homeless guy's got a sign. Imagine if you know the homeless guy's name.
Right.
How differently you would interact with that person. As opposed to don't make eye contact.
I never heard it put that way. Yeah.
Like, think about that one small thing. You're probably go, hey, what's up, Mike? How's your day going? Here's $5 because I know you actually need it because we've had another conversation.
Well, but not even like giving him the money, the
conversation.
Comfort of having someone recognize who you are when you're in that situation is just monumentally different. I need you in my life.
So Josh,
that's where One Up EDU comes in.
Yeah.
So,
Josh put this together and now he has packages of curriculum, games. So it's a one-stop shop. Schools just contact him and here's everything in a kit. Like I couldn't believe it. It sounded like such an idea. Like this should have been thought of years ago. And of course it wasn't. Yeah. And now Josh is killing it.
It is. What you get in this kit is you get 100 games, 100 board games for your school. It's a school library of games. We come in and train you on how to do it. And then we send you on your merry way with support. The worst professional development is twofold. Okay. The worst professional development. One, they drop stuff on you, then they walk away. I despise that. Two, they drop stuff on you and you need them again. That's not actual professional development. That is a business and you have hooked them. Yeah. Professional development, I can learn to, that's the thing. Learn to fish and you teach a man to fish. That's what this is.
Yeah.
Done. It's easy. So that's next.
Josh.
Yeah, Josh, your passion is inspiring. And your drive is inspiring as well. Clearly, we could talk for a long, long time. And the only restriction we have is that you're actually doing your job.
I have a class. Yeah, my doors, they'll knock eventually.
But I'm going to toss it over to Tony for our traditional send-off of the podcast.
No, I don't even know how to start it.
No, we just need Josh to give us his final word once he sits back down, or he can when the kids are finally in.
Big talk. Hey, come on in, people. My AP World class is coming. My AP World History class is coming in.
Love it.
Come on in. It's okay. Come sit.
We know we got to wrap it up. So, Josh, we're going to ask you this.
Final thought.
What is your final thought of all the things that you share with us, which is amazing and a lot? What would be your final nail in the coffin that you would put in there?
Oh, COVID really wrecked education. We were not prepared for it. It happened. We had to deal with it.
And we don't know how to deal with post-COVID kids. They're different.
The post-COVID kid is not the pre-COVID kid. And so we want any shot at getting back to that in the next 20 years. We're going to have to invest now and do it immediately. And it's got to be on a daily thing. We have curriculum written for schools that want to invest weekly into this. We have curriculum written for schools that only have 10 minutes. We have curriculum written for special education teachers to pull kids out that are the most socially awkward and using role-playing games to actually teach real scenarios with the 5 of them as problem-solving team. This is not a joke, and I think this is the next revolution as far as education is concerned. But we got to do something, or we're just complacent.
Josh, you have a website for this?
Yeah, oneupedu.com is where it is. Number one, upedu.com, VGCUSA, also at the top, VGCUSA.org. It will link to OneUpEDU if you hit that button at the top. Everything's at VGCUSA on our socials. We're just a bunch of teachers doing things for kids. That's our whole organization spiel. There's 6 of us and a college intern. That's what we got. So if you want to help, anybody wants to help and want to get involved,
I've got at least 120 teachers I want to get you in front of.
Let's go. I would challenge anybody who's listening to ask themselves why they're teachers. Why are you actually doing what you do? Because if you're not trying to help the kid that can't help themselves, you need to leave.
Yeah.
Josh,
it's really that simple.
I love that. And I just want to finish with, you took one of the biggest adversities in your life and you turned it into such a powerful, positive tool for so many kids. So just thank you for taking the time. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for all you do. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Josh, a little background, because I know we've talked about a billion things, but I don't think I ever told you about this podcast. So we're in season 3 of this thing. We are actually the #1 educational podcast in PA.
For real?
Yeah.
There's only 2.
There's only like 7, but I wouldn't worry about it.
Hey, #1, listen, don't talk yourselves down. You could easily be number 3.
That's right.